Yep. What's going on, guys? Long time coming, Superior Strength Coach Bill Rom, Mike Baranis. Today we're talking a little bit, something that was inspired by a conversation that was going on Facebook last night by Tony Gelencourt and a few other coaches. And he was discussing what it's important for new trainers to have as a knowledge base when they first start out. Like, what are the big rocks and the things that are important? And like a lot of people had great ideas about why it's important to have this and that worrying about branding is important, but like it shouldn't be your whole thing. And I said that because we have an internship class that's going on right now, and I said that it's having a filter for what's real information and what's not real information, and that's hard to kind of figure out. Again, the reason being, and we were just discussing this a little bit beforehand, but we have about, right now when we're doing this video, we have a little over 1,300 people who follow our gym on Instagram. So if you look at the information that we're putting out there, you'd be like, okay, like they obviously work with people, but it's nothing like crazy. And then you might see somebody who has 50,000 followers on Instagram, and you're like, they obviously know what they're talking about. The difference is we trained 300 different athletes last week, just last week. And we'll train 300 plus different athletes this week. And when you look at it, it's hard to get an idea that who should you listen to for what purpose. And the first thing is knowing that the branding has skewed the ability to create an idea of who is successful, because it used to be, hey, this person writes for this magazine or this website or this thing. And at least there was an editor or somebody like that who was taking some type of barrier for you being able to go out and put information up. Now with Instagram and Twitter and social media followings, you can literally just start tomorrow and start hashtagging and tagging other people in things and taking content, putting it up and grow. And like, I'm not going to name drop, but someone who's very, very close to me has built a social media following of nearly 10,000 followers in about 6 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So like that person is able to do that and get that many followers, and people now give credibility to that brand more and more as it moves along. And the reality is that it's being created. It's not something that already existed. Versus there are people out there, coaches out there who have existing businesses. Beyond that, for those coaches, because they can't see what's real, what's not. The other thing is, once you do find good information, you have to remember the perspective that it's being presented at. So the example that I use is Mike Boyle, who's a very famous strength and conditioning coach, says you really shouldn't be doing any bilateral squat beyond a goblet squat, right? Or we should be spending a lot of time doing single leg exercise because there's more that we're going to get out of it. That is given from a coach whose population that he works with is athletes, predominantly, but also he does large groups. His groups are somewhere in the ballpark of, I think, 15, 16 people in a session. Those 16 people can only do so much. If you're training one-on-one clients, why can't you? I think you can. I don't think that there's any problem. Like, if you're training a powerlifter, you should, because that's their sport. To go and tell them, hey, we're only going to do it when you give them a platform is being utopian and trying to stick to a dogma that might not fit. What do you think for like young coaches, young trainers, people who are trying to get into it? Like, what do you see as a big problem? Because you were probably closer to this than I was recently.
Yeah, I mean, I started really coaching 2014. What is it now? 2017. So this summer will mark 3 years I've been out of college, and I've really been in the trenches of it. I think new coaches need to not focus online. And I know the conversation is, what do we look for online? I think we should switch conversations to just, where should you look in person? What should you be doing first? So I think that's the biggest thing was, I wasn't following a lot of strength coaches, and I wasn't following a lot of Instagram fitness people when I first started. And I started at an Equinox, and I met up with Joe Mascaretti from 360 Athletics, and he taught me a lot there. And it was, I think, was this on the same post that Tony had, or was it a different one? Maybe he posted too, but it was before you get people to think about certifications, can they even coach a squat? Was that,
Yeah, well, he was talking last night. Like, he has people who are coming in who are asking about PRI and FRC and how to do evaluations for people, and then they have no fucking clue how to coach a squat.
Yeah.
And like, I've had that same problem with many people that have walked in here, that everybody wants the high level concept, but nobody knows how to do any of the basic fundamental understandings of stuff. And we have an intern, Sydney, and Sydney's had to watch a shit ton of training, and she's more raw. But like, she's going to be able, like 6 weeks from now when her internship ends, I expect her to coach an RDL and know how to go through progressions with people and get people coached out of it. And same thing with a squat pattern, and same thing with a good plank, and like know how to structure a training session and know how to do those things. And is that the end of her experience? No. But like, she's gonna be so far ahead of so many other people where like, I need to learn how to teach people how to fucking breathe. Yeah. And like, I'm not trying to knock PRI, like we're currently doing the respiration course as a team. But like, when you look at it, breathing is great. But if you can make people breathe and then they can't fucking bring any type of noise to a field, like you didn't do what you wanted to do, right? You still have to, at the end of the day, breathing is to put people in position to kick ass, right? FRC and better range of motion is to get people in a better position to kick ass, right? Like, everything's about how do we kick ass. Those other things are support, but so many coaches are like, hey, like, watch my movement flow and watch how easy it is for me to open my hips. What's your vertical jump? Like, are you putting power into the ground? If you are, don't lie to me and tell me that all you did was breathing. Yeah. I know you did other things, right? Like, that's where coaches are getting kind of misconstrued, is because high-end coaches are all excited by this new thing, but that's because they learned how to fucking squat, coach people how to squat 10 plus years ago. Yeah. Like, they've got a decade of time teaching that one thing, and then they're adding these other things on top that are coming out now. But if you don't know how to squat, you're out of order. If you're learning all these other alphabet soup things of FRC, PRI, and all this stuff, like, that's not where you start. You start with, I think the recommendation I gave last night was, every new coach should do a 16-week program and not change anything.
Like training themselves?
Yeah.
Under anybody?
Just pick somebody.
Just see how you progress.
Take Jim Wendler's 531 and do 16 weeks of it.
I do that.
Right? Go and find a coach who you think is giving out good information, grab their program and do it for 16 weeks and be diligent about it. And at the end of it, you'll have a better understanding of why things work together if you can see stuff. Like, hey, why am I doing, like, I'm in strength action, you've done strength action. And a lot of the coaches who are there are like so shocked when, hey, my hips move better because I've been doing a leg lowering for the last 16 weeks. And it's like, well, no, like, that's what will happen. It's why you do those things, is because if we consistently are doing the things that you have a problem with, we get better movement and then we move along. If you have logical, sound progressions to why am I loading something with X, why am I doing Y, you'll get great results. But everybody changes programming too often, they move things around too much, there's way too much variations in things, and when that happens, you don't get good results because it's too hodgepodge. So I think if everybody could just follow a program for 16 weeks, you'd have a better understanding, and then turn around and say, okay, like, what did I learn from this? Like, from strength action, if anybody from strength action watches this, if you're somebody who's never done this before and you do the strength action programming for the very first time, when you get to the other end of this, start thinking about, hey, what were the set rep schemes? What were the rest periods? How was the programming put together? What were the pairings? Like, then ask why. Right? Because I think once you get done with it and you see the results, say, hey, why did this happen? Then somebody can give you a better answer because you've been through it, experienced it, you know that there's validity, you have an anchor to why, and then you just need to find out more of the how. And like, if you've never done it, you're always going to change things, and it's just because you don't realize what it takes to stack results over time. And it just takes small modifications to similar things to move people along and get them in a direction. And I hope that's what we give to our interns, and that's what we're trying to get them to do. How's it going? Guys, we're having a special guest star right now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who that?
Asian pop baby. What's good?
Oh yeah.
Is that new?
That's might not be new, but it's new to us, which is all that really matters at the end of the day. Early mornings here in the industrial park are fire. You get the dopest people.
Going back to what the new trainer should be doing, outside of the 16 weeks, I think I'm most jealous of Cronin and how he was able to be introduced into his career and how much shit he didn't have to go through and sort out.
Cronin is now a special case that you'll never be able to replicate.
Yeah.
Like you can be jealous of Cronin because he got lucky.
Yeah.
Right? Like Matt Cronin is one of our coaches. Matt's a world record holding powerlifter, so don't say he's like lucky because he never worked hard. But Matt did get very lucky that Matt's first strength coach was Sean Noriega, who is competing for the national team at Worlds.
Yeah.
He's a very strong cat, and Sean's first coach, or one of his first coaching experiences, was here with us when I was a younger coach, and Matt came in when he was 15 years old here to work out for the first time, and I met him, and I kind of got to like see him along with time. And Matt went to school and realized early that he wanted to be a trainer, so he went to
BOCES or Wilson Tech.
he went to a special technical school that's associated with the high school to get that credential. And then he left high school, immediately came in because he had such a good connection here. He got an internship with us. After that, because Matt was young and he wasn't going to go to college right away, I gave Matt like an apprenticeship program where he then spent another probably 3 months just coming in and like spotting athletes, coaching, learning how to do it a bit above and beyond just being a intern. So he spent 6 months pretty much in a dedicated internship where food, a roof over his house, finances weren't really like imperative problems. And then that walked Matt into Matt now works here a minimum of 25 hours a week. He has how many online clients?
20.
Matt has 20 online clients. So Matt's making, I'd assume, if I'm going to do the math right, Matt's got to be making somewhere around $40,000 a year as a just graduated 18-year-old strength and conditioning coach. So when the personal trainer average in the country is making $29,000, and Matt walked in and his first job was here, training 300 different people a week, having a platform to do stuff, having the freedom to still be able to go and train, like Matt's an anomaly, but Matt's a perfect example of Matt was training himself for years to get experience.
531, literally walked into a gym. And this is, we talk about like, how did he get so good at powerlifting? He never had to go through bullshit. He just walked into a gym, found out what 531 was because went into a powerlifting gym not totally on purpose. He was at World Gym and just went into the back corner. I guess a bunch of other dudes were doing powerlifting. So he got on a bar, started doing 531 just for a fucking while. For the first like couple months of his lifting, he never did more than a set of 5 like on a squat. And he just fucking patterned himself on the big 3. And just starting that young, raised that ceiling of what his potential is.
And he's always been exposed to the high level stuff. But again, that comes back to the in-person stuff. And Matt was in person getting shit done. He did an in-person internship. He did an in-person apprenticeship. He's gone out and met people at their gyms in person. He's worked out with people in person. And those in-person relationships have led to huge success. And he's a young trainer. Like, he is still ignorant to many, many things. But at the same time, he's got a huge head start on pretty much everybody ever. But we all can look back and say that. I think the biggest thing that you can look at is get the in-person experience, sit down and train on a program to see what it's like to train on a program. Go after a goal for a goal's sake, then find out, did it work, did it not work? Because then you can start to put together in your head, hey, no, like I spent years training for sports to find out what worked and what didn't work. And then I got to coach my friends as I got older, and I found out what worked and what didn't work. Then I got to coach other athletes, and I was already honing this idea, and I found more things that worked, and I cut a lot of the things that didn't work. And now I've been able to just temper that over time to the point that we have a growing business, and we've talked about this in past episodes, but we have the 2 facilities now. We in our primary base programs, between our youth training programs and our regular population programs, we have 120-ish athletes. We have over 200 athletes in teams. And when we say team training, that's literally an hour with an individual team of 12 kids rotated through. Just on a Sunday, we'll do 100 plus athletes between the morning. We have college programs, things like that. So like, there's a lot of different things going on, and we're growing and we're getting bigger. And we're talking about 18 months from now opening up a 3rd facility and what that's going to look like and why. But like, that all starts with, you don't see social media where we're trying to build it. We're building it by making great relationships with people offline and then crushing it with the people that we have in person, because they'll tell more people with their social following than we can do by ourselves. So if we have 100 people in person who love us and they each know 100 people, we have better reach than us just trying to go out and get 100 people online. So I think you want brands, but brands by meeting people. Brands by experiencing training programs and talking with like-minded individuals and creating an offline network that gives you online power. That's this episode of Superior Strength Coach, a little shorter than typical, but we'll be back, and we'll be back more often coming soon. So, bye. Outtakes? Can we do like an outtakes video? I think we should.